Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
More than half of UK graduates are in jobs not deemed to demand a degree. That's according to research published this summer by the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. Yesterday, meanwhile, students took to the streets of London to protest, amongst other things, about the ever-increasing debts they say they are being saddled with. An interesting time, then, for the newish Minister for Universities and Science to unveil a green paper designed to increase student numbers and possibly student debt. But that's what Joe Johnson will do tomorrow. In a moment, we'll hear from him. First, here's Chris Cook.
This is how the Robbins Report, which called for the great expansion of our universities, was heralded in 1963.
Well, not surprisingly, the report says that an educational emergency now confronts the nation. And the report gives a blunt warning that if the government does not do the right things immediately, future educational plans will be seriously endangered.
Tomorrow, Joe Johnson, the Universities Minister, will unleash his Green Paper. He proposes to increase student choice by making it easier for new colleges and universities, including profit-making ones, to set up and access the student loan system. This follows on from the Coalition's plans, and there's a little dash of Robbins in there too.
And that's why I greatly welcome the proposal that we create a lot more new universities, because I think into those you can get a shake-up of tradition and try out new ideas, which is the only way we can deal with these vast numbers.
The so-called alternative sector is already quite big, following the Coalition's work. Including maintenance grants, around 53,000 people got loans for courses at alternative providers in 2013, up from 6,500 students in 2010. Now, some of these colleges are rather grand. Keep an eye out, though. Other colleges have offered poor courses and may even have been used for loan fraud. Now, this Green Paper isn't all a continuation of Coalition policy. Before 2015, it had been assumed that students acting on their own as consumers would drive up teaching quality. Well, no more. So the sector regulators are going: the Office for Fair Access, which monitors admissions, and the Higher Education Funding Council for England, which deals with the cash. They will be replaced by the Office for Students. It will do the work of its predecessors, but combine it with a focus on students' needs and teaching quality. The intention is that this regulator, alongside student demands, will drive up teaching standards. Universities that the Office for Students considers to offer good teaching will be allowed to raise their fees in line with inflation. Now, this isn't quite the Robbins Report, but it's still a very significant set of proposals.
A little earlier, I spoke to Joe Johnson, the Universities Minister, and I asked him why we needed all these new private universities.
Well, we have a great higher education sector in this country, and we want there to be more competition so that there is a process of driving up standards. Consumers benefit in any market from competition because it puts providers under pressure to continue to lift the quality of the service they're providing. And universities are no different in that respect. And we want to make it easier for new entrants to come in to the higher education market and offer wider choice of provision so that more students can access higher education. There
were reports this week, though, that people educated to degree level, graduates, were not finding work that was traditionally graduate level employment. So you could be perhaps creating more candidates with qualifications while the jobs that demand the qualifications are stagnant.
Well, this is precisely our challenge. There is a need from our employers and from our economy to have more skilled graduates entering our workforce. These are the jobs which are powering growth in our economy. We need skilled employees to power our growth. But in too many cases, unfortunately, employers are finding that the graduates coming out of university don't have the skills that they need, and there is a skills shortage and a skills mismatch. And that's precisely why we are today bringing forward these proposals to reform higher education so that it delivers more value for people going through it, and so that it drives up the quality of teaching, so that students benefit and that employers get graduates with the skills that they need to power their growth.
So how will the new proposals prevent a repetition of, for example, the London School of Science and Technology, which The Guardian investigated last year with some undercover filming, and which found some students saying, if you want to take the student loan money and not come in, they're getting paid, so they don't give a, well, I can't repeat the word that this student used, we'll say hoot for the purposes of this exchange. How can we be sure that we won't see a proliferation of this sort of thing?
Well, we have a quality assurance regime which is robust and which catches out this sort of problem.
It's not, it's not working now.
Attendance is a criterion that is very closely scrutinised by the Quality Assurance Agency, and that is then taken into account by the Home Office when looking whether to renew or not a university's licence to bring in international students.
But we're seeing 20% of students registered in these places not even turning up. Some 50% of some EU students aren't even eligible for the degree that they're signed up to get at the end of the process.
And that's the kind of abuse which the Home Secretary and the Department of Business have been driving out of the system, so that we have a higher education...
This happened last year.
Have been driving out of the system, so that we have a higher education sector that is genuinely offering great education to people and not mis-selling visas.
Would you send your children to one of these colleges?
Where there's high quality education, we should be encouraging people to go to university. It's a life-changing experience. It delivers massive
Can't tell whether
benefits.
that's a yes or a no, Joe.
I'd love my children to go to university, but there
One of these
are lots of routes in
new
life.
institutions,
there are lots of routes in life.
Possibly funded by private equity.
There are lots of routes in life. University is one route. You can choose apprenticeships. You can choose many paths. You can go straight into work. University is one of a number of possible routes. Where there's high quality education at university, it can be completely life-changing. And on average, people who go to university see lifetime earnings £100,000 greater than those who don't.
The Home Secretary, of course, has told some, perhaps 214,000 non-EU students who perhaps would have the qualifications that you describe as desirable to industry, that they have to go home as soon as they graduate. That doesn't seem to fit with your vision.
We have a system of higher education that is open. We have no limit on the number of international students that can come and study here. There is no cap on international students, but
they get sent home at the end, according to Theresa May's plans.
International students have the right to stay on and work in this country, provided they have a graduate job to work in.
So they have to go home and apply for that job?
No, they have 4 months in which to find a graduate job, which is a reasonable period of time. Most undergraduates are using their time at university to think about the kinds of things they want to do afterwards. They then have a further 4 months after graduation in which to find a graduate-level job.
The take-up rates are quite low, though. I mean, I understand your vision. I just wonder how it becomes more plausible if we're effectively, and the Prime Minister, of course, likes to talk a lot about the global race, we're giving potentially performance-enhancing education to international rivals who will then go home and compete against us.
Well, we welcome international students, and I'm pleased that numbers are up year on year. They're up 4% this year on last year. China is sending more students to Britain than ever before. There are some countries which are seeing declines. So you
completely agree with Theresa May? 4 months to find a job, otherwise go home, and thank you.
I think we have a post-study work regime which is actually competitive, and it enables students who are capable of finding graduate work within 4 months to stay in this country and continue their studies.
Yours is a government dedicated to the reduction of debt, and yet we're putting stuff on the balance sheet with student loans that could, by some accounts, see a huge increase in the total owed. Can you rule out a toughening up of repayment plans for students who have taken out loans?
Well, we are presently consulting on changes to the student loan repayment scheme, and that consultation is ongoing. It's important to remember the context in which we live right now. We are addressing our fiscal situation. We have a commitment to balance our books by 2019-2020, and ensuring that our financial support to our universities is on a sustainable footing is an important part of that, business of getting our public finances onto a sustainable footing.
So you're not pledging not to freeze the threshold?
As I said, we're consulting
so it could go
on that mechanism.
You can understand why some students who've signed up for a financial loan under terms and conditions that were established might feel a little aggrieved that the terms and conditions then subsequently shift. But
Well,
we're awaiting the results of your consultation.
We're consulting on that change
that's a
right now, and
possibility.
we'll take the responses into the consultation, of course, into consideration. But you've got to remember the context, which is that we need to balance our books by 2019, 2020, and ensuring that our universities are on a sustainable footing and properly financed is a big part of that.
The coalition government, of course, trebled tuition fees. £9,000 is the current figure. Is it going to stay at £9,000?
What we are committing to is to say that where there are universities that are offering high-quality teaching, that they will, in due course, in 2017, 2018, be able to increase their fees only in line with inflation. Now, inflation is very low at the moment, it's under 1%, but that is our commitment so that our good universities that are offering high-quality teaching don't see their revenues eroded in real terms.
Indeed. Over the course of this Parliament, then, you can, as the Minister responsible, rule out any increase in tuition fees, higher threshold that isn't index-linked, isn't
What we are
inflation-linked.
doing is proposing to allow an increase in line only with inflation, which is presently well under 1%.
So no prospect whatsoever of...
What we are proposing today is to only allow increases in line with inflation, which is under 1%.
Joe Johnson, many thanks.
All right, thank you.
And that is all we have time for. Good night.
I've been getting away with it all